James Williams, Director of Programs with the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. We've got 6 ecosystems, 6 product lines within MEF. I joined you earlier to cover off one of those, which was enterprise communications. And now we are looking at the world of payments and content and advertising. So, this session is kindly sponsored by Bango, and I'd like to introduce my speakers for today. We've got Anil Malhotra, who's one of the co-founders and indeed Chief Marketing Officer of Bango, who is sponsoring the session. And thank you very much for joining. Next up, we've got Jane, who's come all the way from Australia, from Optus. One round of applause. And last but by no means least, Mr. Alexis Bartels, who is the founder and CEO of Sam Media. Come on, a round of applause for everyone. Thank you very much indeed. So, the world of subscriptions. Who here is from the UK? A few of you are from the UK. Now, those of us of a certain age might have had a subscription to Britannia Music Club. Do you remember that? Some of you might have heard of that. I did. That was my first foray into the world of subscriptions. So every month, we got a list of CDs I could buy. So I chose Madonna, I liked my Pet Shop Boys discography, I liked Erasure, I liked Depeche Mode, and yes, unfortunately I have to admit, Kylie Minogue was top of the charts in the albums, and I know I bought, it was me, I bought that Kylie Minogue album. That was all part of my Britannia Music Club subscription. That was many, many years ago. Dare I say that was way over 30 years ago. The world of subscriptions has moved on since then, massively. So we have Anil from Bango, we've got Jane from Optus and Mobile Operator, and we have Alexis from Sam Media, who create content. And we all love a win-win, but what's better than a win-win? That's a win-win-win. And actually a win, because also for the consumer at the end of the day. So the format for our session now, we're going to be having a presentation from Anil and Jane, and then we'll be moving on to a discussion. So take it away. Introduce yourselves and take it away.
Thanks very much, James, and good evening, everybody. I think this is the last stage, isn't it, between now and whatever happens after NWC finishes for the day.
Yeah.
So let's give this Bango. We're sponsoring this event. We're a business that's been in the market for nearly 20 years now, and we're really focused on bringing 2 important worlds together in mobile. One is the world of telecommunications that you've heard a lot about today and was all around MWC, and the other is the worlds of media and content. And those worlds have come together on a number of occasions, and now, particularly around subscriptions, we're seeing really good synergistic coming together of telecommunications worlds and content and media worlds. And Bango is at the heart of that. Bango technology galvanizes many of the subscription services that you see offered by telecommunications companies around the world. So as James said in his introduction, there are 2 key parties. There are telecommunications companies and there are the media companies, each of whom brings strengths to the partnership. But there's also a third party here, a third constituent, who's really, in terms of thinking about the future of the subscriptions industry, is really critically important, and that's the consumer. And so one of the things we did at Bango was we looked at what the consumers were interested in. This is a big industry. The world of telecommunications, the industry of telecommunications is worth around $1.4 trillion a year. The world of digital content is over $1 trillion a year. The digital subscriptions world, the sort of OTT subscriptions world, is a $200 billion industry and growing fast. So these are clearly big numbers. So we looked at how is this going to play out in the future, and we ran a survey. And we found some really interesting data. This was a survey of 2,500 Americans. It was done in November, so the data is very, very fresh. And we found that 85% of Americans, and that's a huge number in a country of over 300 million people, have at least one subscription. Interestingly enough, nearly a quarter of Americans have 9 or more subscriptions. So it's and by the way, as Jane will talk about, that experience is not unique to the United States of America. So that's the nature of the industry, the nature of the market. So we started focusing on the subscriber themselves. So those were our numbers, Jane. You obviously you come from a different part of the world from your experience in Australia. So talk a little bit about what you found.
So what we've found is that it's very similar. The market is exploding. There are so many digital subscriptions. Like if we were to ask people here today, how many subscriptions do you actually have? The first place you go to think about is entertainment. We know the entertainment market is very saturated. We have similar statistics in Australia, and they're really fighting amongst themselves, around competing for, share of wallet. But if you then start to broaden your thinking and think about what other subscriptions you have, then you might have a Microsoft subscription. You may have something with Uber, different productivity. There may be a gym. There may be something else. It's a huge actual world that's really expanding. But this world at the moment is becoming very, very vast and very big. And it's, on one side, there's great benefit to the consumer, but on the other side, it's also creating a lot more pain points and challenges. And in that, and also with some of the current economic conditions, people are going through and rationalising what those subscriptions are. But one of the areas that really are winning, and general spend, one of those areas that really is still winning are the digital entertainment subscriptions. Because when people are rationalising in the coming months what they actually are going to be doing and prioritising, those in-home entertainment services are the ones particularly that are still coming up to the forefront and still proving to be value for money and what they're prioritising.
So there's a great experience in Australia. Jane will talk a bit more about her experience in Australia with Optus as we go through this evening's session. So let's go back to our 2,500 subscribers. What did we find out? So clearly, 85% of Americans have at least one subscription. Nearly a quarter have 9 or more subscriptions. Americans must love their subscriptions. That's got to be the conclusion. Okay. Well, let's go back and look at the data again. So what do we actually find? By the way, all of you on your chair should have found one of these. This is a complete report on this survey that we did in November, so please take it away with you, and if there's a spare, take away and share. We found, despite the love affair with digital subscriptions, that 72% of our respondents, when asked an open question about have you got too many subscriptions or enough or not enough, 72% said too many, it feels like too many. And as you start looking through the data, you can see a very large number of them felt like they had more subscriptions than they needed, spending more money than they wanted to spend on it, and an alarming number of them, nearly a third of them, said, I've almost certainly got 1 or more subscriptions I don't even use that I'm paying for. So there is this potential challenge when we look at the third party in this relationship, not just the content provider, the service provider, and the telco, the subscriber. There is a potential challenge here with the subscriber experience around this multiple subscription availability, this open access to subscriptions, that there is an experience problem, a feeling of being overwhelmed, a feeling that the subscriptions almost, I don't know where I've put them. They're here somewhere, but I can't find them at the moment, and I don't know how much I'm using them. So what's the solution? And this is where we think the world of telecommunications has a really significant role to play in solving these subscription pain points. So let's push on with our research a bit to the next level. So, we found that 78% of our subscribers. Oh, let me just go back one. There we go. So I've jumped ahead of myself there. 78% of our subscribers said that there are positives here. 78% of our subscribers said they wanted one single platform for all of their subscriptions. So that's the biggest, just about the biggest number that we got out of the survey. So that's a really big number. So nearly 4 out of 5 of those 2,500 people that we surveyed in our sample said that they ideally want to not give up their subscriptions, but have one single place where they can manage all of their subscriptions. And effectively an identical number, 77% of them said, I'd also like to be able to pay all of my monthly subscriptions through one consolidated bill. So, as I said, here is a really soft hit for the telco industry. Just those 2 data points out of all the stats we've got in this report, those 2 data points on their own present a fantastic open door, a fantastic opportunity for the telecommunications industry. And James, tell us more about the telecommunications industry in response to that.
So we found very similar things in earlier pieces of research, but we wanted to go a little bit deeper and really understand what's motivating the consumer, what's really driving some of these behaviours. And when we started to get under the skin of it, we found that there's a really emerging consumer behaviour that's coming through that, a product like what we've introduced with SubHub in combination with Bango, is that we can actually provide a tool to enable management. So 68% of consumers said they actively dip in and out of consumers. They turn them on and off on a regular basis. This is actually even higher when you look at entertainment services. And understanding that and why they're doing it, it really comes back to one of those earlier proof points, earlier pain points, where the fragmentation and the competition amongst many of these providers, people don't have infinite budgets and the cost is spiralling. And so one of the ways that they are actually managing these costs is actually turning on and off. We kind of nicknamed it internally, pay for what you use or pay as you go, because they are citing reasons like I'm managing my costs by turning subscriptions on and off. I may switch between one service and another at a different time or through seasonality in order to make sure that I can actually afford all of those services that I need. And so therefore by providing a tool, we started to go even deeper, providing a tool to these consumers. What we're really able to do with a product like SubHub is give back control to the consumer. The consumer loves the idea of this one single bill, loves the idea of managing everything, but by having one dashboard where you can actually see and bring all your subscriptions together, turn them on and off when you need to, understand what you are using, what you're not using, you actually give them back that control. That control also creates a relationship with the consumer for a brand like Optus, where we actually have a trust relationship we're building, because by giving you that control, you infer a trust back to us, because we're giving you something that is not expected in the past as well, because many telecommunications companies, that consumers perceive when we do put subscriptions together with services that they're going to be in a contract and you're going to be stuck in that contract for a period of time. So by breaking that and doing something different to what we've behaved in the past, we change that dynamic and create that element of trust. And then the great benefit in addition to that coming into, for consumers is it enables flexibility. So they can actually adapt and change their subscriptions according to their needs. They can dial them up when they need to and they can dial them down when they need to. So it really does put them in the driving seat.
That's really interesting. So at Bango, we've decided to rethink how subscriptions work and see this role of the telecommunications company that James just talked about as being critical in delivering an improved, better, consumer-friendly, subscriber-friendly experience in managing these subscriptions, their subscription lives, you might say. And we created this category called super bundling. And super bundling is sort of the second or arguably third generation of bundling. So the most recent example of bundling, most countries you'll see telcos offering maybe a Netflix subscription or a Spotify subscription as an incentive to upgrade to a particular plan type or get a 5G device, for example. What we're now starting to see in the market, and Optus is a great example of this, is telcos willing to go to the next level and effectively provide the entire environment through which subscribers can manage the multiplicity of subscriptions that they have. And we call this category super bundling. And it's just starting now, and I think it's an area we're going to see real growth in the industry, the telecommunications industry, and in particular in that intersection I referred to at the beginning between how telecommunications companies and content and media companies work together synergistically, harmoniously. So I showed you a couple of high 70% data points in earlier slides. Here's another one. 79% of subscribers would be more loyal to a brand that provided this kind of coherent, unified super bundling service. That's a huge number. It's very rarely you get numbers, endorsements that resounding when you do consumer surveys like this. And for all of that early data I showed you about subscription fatigue possibly, or I don't know how many subscriptions I've got, 70% of subscribers would spend more time using subscription services if they had this unified, coherent capabilities, coherent products. So in the super bundling category at Bango, we've come up with this analogy, this metaphor of the digital vending machine, that image you can see realised there on the screen behind me. So this idea of something that's highly standardised, very easy to deploy for a telecommunications company at every customer touch point, on the web, on app, even at point of sale, You can bring together the subscription products you want to offer in the bundles, discounts and add-ons and all those other formats that you can present to your customer, and it makes it incredibly easy for your consumer to find what they want, to get what they want, with possible free introductory periods if that's what you wish to do to incentivize customer engagement, and of course to manage their subscription life, so through it's one kind of coherent user experience. So key ideas, there are two key ideas: super bundling, to be the next category in the subscriptions world, and this concept of a digital vending machine that you're going to see more and more telcos deploying in different parts of the world. And before we get into our general conversation, perhaps Jane, you can talk about your Optus SubHub experience.
Yes. So at SubHub, what we've seen, to kind of back up, this is research, and obviously what consumers state is their intention, but we're actually seeing that intention come to life. What we've seen with SubHub is that when we do our NPS survey, and if you look at a consumer, a user who is only on a core mobile product or a broadband product versus a consumer who actually also has SubHub and has multiple subscriptions, they are significantly more likely to be an advocate and to recommend the brand than the other consumers. And in addition, those drivers of the NPS, when we look through value for money, etc., are significantly higher as well. So every single attribute underneath those drivers are leading to that lift in NPS. It's not only on one score. So we see that, and we also are starting to see some early kind of signs. The product is, very infant in the market, but we're seeing early signs of it being a great opportunity for acquisition as well. Because we've seen in the last 6 months that 1 in 4 new people who are signing onto the SubHub product are new to Optus in the last few days, the last 30 days. So therefore we see that early adoption from those new users and that loyalty coming through very strongly, and so that's kind of the nice proof in the pudding to back up those statistics.
Now, let's talk about content. It's clear, so look at the brands on the vending machine which has just gone by. You will see various types. Ones we know many of us will have a Netflix subscription, will have a Disney subscription, brands like that. Of course, there are also sports-related subscriptions and many, many others. But what people don't think are, for example, the likes of McAfee virus protection subscriptions like that. So you're talking about the fact that in America, the average American has 9 subscriptions. It's very much like a previous panel I was moderating. We're talking about the world of messaging and super apps, and there, so many people receive messages from businesses, but they don't actually realize how many they receive because they're so comfortable with apps like Viber and others that they don't actually feel as though they're actually being, for example, targeted by a business. It's that comfort which is important. Now, for you, Jane, as a mobile operator, to offer well-known content like Netflix and Disney, it provides that known element in new customer acquisition. But what have you been doing within Optus to broaden that out? Because there's so many different types of content, and fear not, Alexis, I'm coming to you, because your company, you provide a whole different array of content as well. So what are you doing to broaden out that appeal for people in terms of content?
So we find that the entertainment services are a great hook to bring people through, but actually when people start to understand the benefit of the product, it goes way beyond entertainment services. So there are productivity services, there are even educational, health and well-being, etc. So what we do use some of those well-known ones to bring people in, to draw that attention, but once they're in our environment, then they see a range of other services that they may already have a subscription to or don't have a subscription to, and so they may take opportunity to it. So really we are making sure that we are as broad as possible across the digital economy that is enabled by connectivity.
Fantastic. So Alexis, could you introduce yourself? And you've had a really easy time so far, but not now, I'm here. So could you introduce yourself and your company and what type of content you create, what you actually do within Sam Media?
Yeah, short, I'm Alexis, CEO and founder of Sam Media. Sam Media develops, creates and sells innovative digital content to consumers worldwide. We do so in more than 14 markets. We have 2 flagship products. One is called XR Academy. It's XR VR, VR AR based educational service casual education, so it's not textbook, but casual education about the solar system, the human body, archaeology, museum, art. The second is Horizonia. It's a metaverse space where consumers, users can navigate content and consume content. There's various rooms. In each room is different content. There is wellness, fitness, there is video 360, VR videos, there's an AR gaming room, also educational. So, and the user is an avatar and can navigate the metaverse. I mean, the metaverse, everyone heard about it. Few people knew what it actually is, and so we decided to create one to actually show people this is how you can use it. And we think both of our services are a fantastic use case for carriers, a 5G use case, I must say. Some carriers, I always like the story, one of our partners, South African carrier, the guy was driving on the highway in Johannesburg, then he saw a huge billboard showing the operator brand, someone with a VR headset, and then he, being responsible for content, realized, oh, we don't have a VR service. So then they learned about our services, and now we're partnering with them and also working on a bundle to be launched later. So yeah, that is what we can do with carriers. And another thing is that we work closely in terms of marketing, because our data combined with the telco data, telco sits on a wealth of valuable data. Together we can do even better in targeting and promoting. Because I think that for bundling is also still a challenge. How to promote, how to curate, what is the role of the carrier there, what is the role of the merchant, because we also want to promote our own services. So I think there's still work to do together. I think that's the way. And also Bango with audiences, one of the products, combined with our data, helps to target the relevant users. And yeah, for us as a smaller merchant, because we obviously don't have the same brand recognition as the Netflixes of this world yet, we also want to be put in front of a bigger audience, and that's also what this platform or super bundling can do. It puts there's a lot of cool content available in the world that users have no idea about, and the smaller merchants or content creators don't have the big budgets to put it in front of the users. But if there's a platform, an interface that they trust, will trigger them to try a service that normally maybe they're a bit reluctant. This name, I never heard about it. So, but if it's the carrier and they bring the trust, then the consumer more likely to try it, to take a look, maybe do a free trial or a trial month. They can always just unsubscribe again. So yeah, that is why I think there's a lot of content will become available and more actively used if it's provided by this trusted hub, the carrier.
Fantastic. So it's very clear that mobile operators, carriers such as Optus, are well along the path and understand there's far more in life than content purely such as Netflix and Disney. But in your experience, so you're approaching telcos, you're talking to telcos about the content you're offering and talking to them. Are telcos receptive and understanding generally that there's far more to the world of content than Netflix and Disney? Or is it, we're still at an early stage at the moment, so Optus is one of the more advanced ones and the rest are playing catch up. What are you seeing out there in the market, Alexis?
Well, our first sell is to the carrier, so we first have to convince the carrier, this is content that they like to introduce to their users. So showing is believing. So we do demos. And we thought about, we are a bunch of creative geeks, and we love to make fantastic products. We can make very advanced products, but then it will only be available for a small group of people. If it requires a VR headset or a very high-end handset, then only a small group of people would be able to use the product. That's why we decided to limit the memory usage and also do not require VR headsets. Our products are available for most of the carrier's users and customers, and with any smartphone it will work. And that's also something they like, and it fits the 5G story. So yeah, we every time we have the opportunity to show it and to let carriers play with it, then we get quite a positive response.
Fantastic, it's getting to that stage. So, can you explain a bit more about your role, Bango's role in the whole ecosystem we've got going on here? Exactly what you do.
Just, I'll come to say one quick comment, so I'll just follow what Alexis said. At some point, we're going to get to a situation where the big brands, the big media brands, are pretty ubiquitously available. And therefore, if you are a telco, you're going to be starting to look around for things that can differentiate your offer a bit more. And so leading with, I've got one of the big brand names as a bundled offer is not going to be news in a couple of years' time. It'll be expected by the subscriber almost as a condition of signing up to that telco that I'm going to have that top 5, top 10 brands. So it's content like the Sound Media content that I think is going to be interesting points of differentiation that allow you to run unusual campaigns and different campaigns and reach to different parts of your consumer base. Which allows me actually to segue into what Bango does. The idea of the digital vending machine metaphor is quite deliberate. I think hopefully most people in the room, when they think about a vending machine, they think about a few characteristics, something that's ubiquitous, you can find it everywhere, it's very standardized, very straightforward to use, and its product mix will reflect where that particular consumer is. So if anybody's visited a hospital in the last year or so, you'll see that the product mix in a vending machine in a hospital lobby is going to be different from in a nightclub or an airport, for example, an airport terminal. So I think the vending machines can convey that idea. One of the key concepts we want to communicate through that metaphor is that what we do at Bango is provide a standardized technology platform for telcos and their content partners, so they don't have to build it themselves. So when we do a bundling and resale partnership with we've announced partnerships with people like Intel and T-Mobile in the USA and Verizon in the USA. So some big companies around the world opt us as a partner. There's 85% of what you need as a telco to launch products like Sound Media products is the same. So Bango's built that, standardised that, it's ready to go. So you get to market really quickly. So that's one of the ideas behind the vending machine. But then it goes further than that. It goes to, so how do I drive the sort of offers that are going to really resonate with my customers? So we spend a lot of time looking at offer management, how to put things together, what works, creative, that kind of thing, so that content like Sound Media content hits the right consumer, so you're going to get the kind of redemption that you want, you're going to get conversion that you want for the consumer. So it's the sort of whole experience stack from core technology through to engagement with consumers that Bango provides.
So Jane, talking about experience, what about the customer experience? From your research, we were able to see the key frustrations that customers have. And what have you done within the contact centre in Optus to actually make the experience easy? If anyone has any issues with subscriptions, do you have a defined team within your contact centre looking after subscription issues, for example?
So we do have some teams. It's not one central team, but what we do is we make sure that our frontline staff, a lot of people also come into our retail stores, contact centres, retail stores, there's many avenues and channels that they come through to make sure they really understand how we can best enable and connect the customer if they are having challenges with their subscriptions.
Fantastic. Now, Alexis, I know the billing side of things is very important for content. We as consumers, all of us here are consumers of content. If we've got a subscription, we like to know where we are at all times. And if there are any issues with content from a content provider, actually being able to, the frustration is, who do I talk to? How do I actually get through to them? I know certainly with Sound Media, we've talked before about this, that your company is very, very good at ensuring that on the bills with the telco, your contact details are very, very clear. Now that change, it may seem a very, very small thing to do, but it has a massive impact on the customer experience.
Yeah, I think it's important to close the loop. So it's not only about acquiring users, offering them content, but also if they have a question or they're unhappy, also need to entertain them. So, and there, I think there's a lot still to gain in the cooperation with carriers, especially if the platform like this would also facilitate that. So maybe it's a starting point for the consumer to go and then find their way to the relevant merchant to solve an issue. So yeah, I think also their partnership is key, and that will help a lot. That users know where to go, because yeah, you can publish it everywhere, but if they know, then they're also more likely to, because it's also one of the things that came out of the survey, that they don't know where to go and or they forgot. So you can make that easy. I mean, we're really happy, and we're happy to entertain. And if someone's not happy with our service, fine. Then make it easy to stop, and they might come back. So
It's putting that control in the hands of the
Yeah.
consumer.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, our half an hour already is an end. So thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Do we have a question straight away?
Thanks. Very quick observation. It's very interesting to me, the overarching story of the unbundling of all these subscription services is kind of taking it away from cable, right? At the same time when cable is trying to launch MVNOs and take subscribers away from MNOs. But so that leads to my question, which is, presumably many of these media content subscriptions are great consumers of bandwidth. Why are we not hearing more about zero rating, the usage as a differentiator from other sources of subscription?
It is a subject of conversation, and it's actually a subject of conversation here at this conference. How consumers consume the content that they subscribe to is highly variable. I think consumers are quite savvy. There's a lot of consumers from the data we can see that wait until they've either downloaded or download on Wi-Fi. They find various techniques for optimizing use of the network to get the content down there. But increasingly there are plans now that fix the cost of data across the networks. And then there are some markets in the world where content companies do get together with telcos and look at ways of subsidizing and funding subscriptions. The three of us were talking earlier today, and we were saying to ourselves, very germane to your question, in the digital vending machine, why couldn't you have data packs that you could also buy? So buy yourself a data pack as part of the experience.
They wouldn't need to be so creative about doing that if it was free or bundled in, I should say, not free.
I mean, we have something at Optus, for example, within our living network, which is called Unlimited Data Day. So you can choose any day in a month where you can have unlimited data. And so obviously this was something that actually came out on our plans before we introduced SubHub, and we're now working with our team to ensure that we're very present in that moment, either whether it be through the products that we are serving the subscriptions and having that access to that unlimited data day available, or vice versa, if people are thinking about it and then thinking how might I use that in that period of time, obviously they're going to probably use their subscriptions.
That's it. Folks, we are way out of time. We've overrun a little bit, but I'd like to thank Mango. Thank you very much for sponsoring the session, part of our Future Mobile Summit. Jane, pleasure seeing you, and Alexis, always great talking to you. Thank you very much indeed, everyone.